All right, welcome in. Wrong side of the pond. He is DJ Schweitzer. I am Jeremy Lance, slogging through no longer super cold temperatures and a bunch of snow.
Yeah, it's a little weird. After a week of us getting frozen out here in Ohio, we have quickly thawed back out. It was so cold last week that we froze up and didn't even record a podcast.
Yeah. We took a snow day.
Yeah, each one of us was actually encased in a block of ice, and we didn't do anything. We just sat in that block of ice for roughly about 48 hours before the sun came back out, and what was like 60s today here in Ohio again.
Yeah, it was 65 at one point this afternoon. Like, I was in the office, and the other guy in the office, we would just looked at each other like, dude, let's just go just walk. Like, let's just go outside and just walk around. Like, it's 64 degrees. Like, this is incredible. Like, let's just go enjoy this.
Yeah, I mean, people were back outside in t-shirts and flip-flops, and it was practically summer here in Ohio again, which is
might as well be.
Yeah, right. Like, this is so Ohio, where like we get out of a really cold snap, and the minute we get some minutely warmer temperatures, everyone literally acts like it's the middle of summer again.
Yeah, I had a buddy that saw what the temperature was pretty warm yesterday too. Like, it got up into like the 50s, and he saw what was going to happen today, and so he got all excited, and he tried to go fishing, and showed up, and like the pond was still frozen. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. We were just in like a deep freeze like 3 days ago."
Oh yeah, it's completely wild too, because anywhere there's still shadows, there's still like some piles of snow that are lingering around, despite the fact that it's literally warm enough to wear t-shirts out now. So things have thawed out. We have thawed back out enough so to, reconvene digitally to record a podcast once again. So we're back at it, and the relentless toil of soccer has continued on despite the deep freeze across most of North America and even Europe at this point. And things just remain batshit crazy. I don't think there's really any other way to describe what's going on. And it's not, we're so English focused with a lot of what we cover here on this show, but it's everywhere right now. Like, there are some powers that are all sitting at the tops of the tables as normal, but what's happening right below those is utter chaos and turmoil.
Oh, absolutely. It's been a crazy year in the Premier League with these top teams. We've always been talking about them moving around, but you look at the entire table and you're like, this is like, I don't know where anybody's finishing.
Yeah, like in England right now, it's insane. But even you look over in Germany, Bayern's at the top of the table, but then below them is like Leipzig, Wolfsburg, Eintracht Frankfurt. Like, that's your top four in Germany right now. And I kind of feel like these are the things that COVID has brought on, and all this uncertainty, the quick schedules, the tightening of cash flows has just made this year the most entertaining year from a neutral perspective that I think we've ever really had. And while our teams are caught up in all the chaos, this has been like super fun, and like it's made every league worth turning into whenever you have an opportunity to flip it on, because none of the leagues feel like they're out of the running yet. Like, nonsense is left to happen.
Over in Spain, you have Atletico currently running the show there. But you mentioned Germany. Like, the other weird thing about that is like, so Dortmund is like hanging on and trying to get into like a European place right now, and one of the other clubs fighting for a European place, that manager has already agreed to leave and go to Dortmund next year. Like, one of the rivals for these European spots, it's already been decided. Like, the manager is going to leave Mönchengladbach and go take the gig at Dortmund next year, and yet we're still going to just battle it out. But if your team knocks them out, that means your team next year is not playing in European competition. So who do you want to have a European place? Your current employer or your future employer?
Got a sandbag. That's how it works, right?
That's right.
Well, it's made for entertainment every day of the week. We continue to have It's like the early days of the pandemic when we finally got soccer back after that long layoff, and then like every day turned into like, what 20 matches am I going to
Yeah,
watch
just a
today?
deluge. I know we're stalling here a bit though. The most crazy soccer to really talk about is our fantasy.
No, there's nothing crazy about that. We're consistent across the board here as things have been with fantasy of late. Let's get it out of the way. You and I both fell. I fell 7 places to 48th. You fell 5 places to 91st. Tyler Kelly's Ole Can't Drive 9 shows in a row now, sitting on top of the table. If we're looking for some consistency in the world of soccer, it comes in the form of the wrong side of the pond fantasy league.
He's the Manchester City of our fantasy league.
Yeah, and Manchester City seems a good place to start with where things are currently over in the Premier League. I mean, they're playing kind of good soccer right now.
Yeah, yeah, just a bit. How many in a row? Like a million matches in a row?
Sure, might as well be a million. They are the pace setters at the moment in England, and
Clearly.
it's wild. Our good buddy Adam Maloney, our multiple time guest host stand-in, when you've been too ill to proceed, he was running some numbers today, and it's possible for City to end up on 96 points this season. And that seems like a very realistic outcome for them potentially as well, unless they drop some points unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
And for a club that we were kind of going like, man, they kind of got off to a bad start.
I straight up thought they were going to have a down year. Remember?
Yeah. Like in your preseason predictions, I think
Yeah, I was like, they don't have Aguero. I think Pep feels like he's. I feel like the narrative was we went into the season and there was this lingering rumor that Pep's eye was starting to wander as far as like kind of being bored with the situation and looking for that next thing, that next power club to jump to. And
right.
I mean, I guess we could still run into that again though. I mean that the Premier League is not the ultimate goal for them. It is one of the goals, but it's not the ultimate goal. So maybe I don't know. Maybe if they find a way to flame out again in the Champions League, it still might be curtains for him. I don't know.
Yeah. And who's to say, even if they have a good year, that his wandering eye could take him somewhere next year as well, right? Like those are the way the machinations of the sport work now. He could be gone even if he has a successful year, if that's what he chooses to do. So
kind of running out of big clubs though, right?
You get a feeling he spent some time playing in Italy during his career, and you have to think if he's gonna make a big move, it would have to be to one of those Italian giants. Like he only goes to like the richest club in each league, so
right.
You would imagine he'll go to like a Juve, whenever they make their inevitable next change. And I think that would probably be a good fit for him too, with the style that they tend to play, and certainly the budget that they have to spend, at least in Italian soccer.
He's just trying to collect all of the European titles.
Yeah, right. It's potentially what he's aiming to do at this point. Let's pivot though away from City and how well they're doing to the current title holders, and really how poorly they're doing at the moment.
Liverpool just continuing to kind of fall apart. And this weekend was kind of the big one. For the first time since I believe it was 2011, they lose the Merseyside derby to Everton. The first time since 1999 that they lost it at Anfield.
Yeah, which is decades by my count, right?
Yeah.
Multiple.
Like I'm pretty sure we were still making like Bill Clinton jokes in 1999. I looked it up. It was September. It was like September 29th, I think, of 1999.
Trying to think.
I don't even know. Like, I would have been. How old I would have been? I would have been like 13.
Yeah, I would have been, I think 18 or 17 at that point. So yeah, just babes, probably incapable of even watching Premier League soccer in this country at that point.
Oh yeah,
at least without a satellite subscription of some sort.
Get that high tier so you can get that Fox Sports World.
Yeah, man, I don't even know that Fox Sports World was a thing at that point. And really, like, if you try to go back and look how long it's been since Liverpool have been on this bad a run of form, even outside of the Merseyside derby, the last time they've lost four consecutive league games was in December 1923, which is even crazier when you consider they're also the first reigning top flight champion to lose four consecutive home games since Everton during the 1928-1929 season. So it's just like a historically, which is ironically tied together, bad run for a side that, like, 10 months ago we were talking about as potentially one of the best sides that's ever played the game. And they've had some really devastating things to deal with, and an injury run that just continues to pile up on them. But this turnaround has been really dramatic.
Yeah, you look at just how they've been the last couple of years, 2018, 2019, 2020, years of dominance for them, years where they competed they won the Champions League 2 seasons ago, competed in one of the best title race as far as like points accumulated by the top two teams.
Mm-hmm.
Then they win it last year where they were pretty much untouchable. 2021 is we're only about 2 months in. They've already lost 6 league matches in 2021.
That's like more than the last 2 seasons combined almost.
I think it might literally be.
Yeah. And you talk about like what they achieved in the last 2 seasons. Remember the season before that, they went to the Champions League final and lost it. So like
Right.
they were at like this preeminent level for so long, and this is like the most obvious example I've ever seen of the wheels literally falling off the car, like while they're on the victory lap. Like it's literally like normally you'll see a season, afterward, especially after a long wait like this, like you expect it to
Sure.
be a little bit of a downturn. And I think everyone was kind of going like they just can't keep it up at this level anymore. And
But I don't think
this,
anybody saw them like, okay, maybe they're not the preeminent title favorite, but they'll be right there at the end, right? And like at this point, I don't know. Probably not. I don't even know if they're. I mean, top four is going to be tough, even at
I
this
mean,
point. You look at. I mean, unless Leicester completely flames out like they did, a year ago. United looks fine. City looks fine. Chelsea have kind of righted the ship. They look good. West Ham is looking good. Everton is looking good. Like it's not just going to be like a easy consolation prize of fourth place to them. Like it's going to be a dogfight just even to get that.
yeah, absolutely. And that's Spurs are still on the outside looking in too, and they're in the same type of situation, looking, going like, hey, we have to get back into those positions. So it's
Right.
a legit dogfight that Liverpool find themselves in, and they're not like perched precariously just outside the realm of the top four. They've got a gap to erase. So they need other teams to screw up and them continue to make up ground. And that's
Yeah.
just it's a daunting prospect for a team that just can't get themselves healthy, can't seem to find a center back
Yep.
pairing that can
And,
stick
and
together
yeah.
for a match or two. And that's a tough thing for going from having one of the most airtight defenses in Europe for the last couple seasons to now leaking goals. And what that's done, conversely, is as they've lost their offensive prowess, as they've had to pull pieces out of midfield to fill in their backline holes. That's impacted their ability to produce up front, and now they have no confidence in attack.
Right.
So it's like a compounding issue that is really it's almost tough to see them getting themselves out of that type of situation this year.
You had Henderson going down this week. He looks to probably be done for the season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 3 months he's going to be out, and I don't know if you've seen a calendar. There's just under 3 months left of the season, so that doesn't look good. this was a guy that you had to pull into that back line from the midfield, as you mentioned. Like they are literally running out of like plausible, like serviceable options at the center back position.
Yeah.
They
Like
made 2 acquisitions at that role in January, and one of them was a dude from Preston, and the other guy came from Schalke or whatever, and he is not like he's played, and you can tell that this guy is not ready for prime time.
No, he's not quite there yet. So it's a tricky situation they find themselves in currently, and it's a little boggling that we find them here, but that's the type of season that the 2021 season is turning into, and it's at least made it interesting, but it's been a really I feel like this has been a tough emotional roller coaster for the Liverpool faithful to follow over the last 36 months, and they've had some really high highs, but they're struggling with what's ultimately not that low of a low in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, and we'll see how that backline works with your options of Nathan Phillips, that Kubak guy, and then Ben Davies. I mean, you're right. This team's going to be leaking goals. You mentioned like the emotional ups and downs. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but like there is a faction of Liverpool supporters that like are already turned on Klopp.
What?
Which, like unheard. Like I don't even. That's unfathomable. But
Yeah.
they are.
I've seen them lurking. Do we need to list the things that they've achieved in the last 3 years again? Should we go over that list?
I mean, I don't know. You got that, you got champagne taste, I guess, right?
Yeah. Once you have it, you only want champagne.
So we either are the greatest club in Europe or everybody's fired.
Get out of here. Just get out.
Yeah, I mentioned it though, like legitimately 4th place. How achievable is that for like what would you handicap that at the moment?
Man, I mean, I think they find themselves in the uphill battle.
Yeah, you got right now as they are struggling and faltering, the teams right around them are kind of kicking into gear. West Ham really in a good form. Chelsea have basically allowed like 2 goals since Tuchel has taken over in all competition.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking good. We'll see how long that lasts, but they're looking good. They play each other in a week, so we'll see. Everton back on the horse after a hot start at the beginning of the season, little falter. You just got everyone getting hot around you, and you can't get anything right. Like I don't know. It's a coin toss for me at this point.
I was gonna say their odds are probably sitting around 50%, which for the title holders, you'd think that those odds might be better, but I think that might even be kind.
Hey, just remember, Chelsea won the title and then finished 10th the following season. So we've seen worse. We've seen worse.
That we have.
So speaking of, talking about Liverpool, talking about their struggles and where they could potentially find themselves at the end of the season, we are basically almost at like by like next week, most teams will basically be on the cusp of being like 2/3 of the way done with their season.
Mm-hmm.
So we figured, why don't we take this time to just kind of look at like who has been the MVP, the player, the irreplaceable member of some of the teams vying for some of the top spots, the big clubs. That if you took that guy off the team, if they went down with a horrible injury in preseason and you didn't have them, the team would be a shell of themselves and nowhere near where they're currently at without them. So we're already on Liverpool. Let's just get that one out of the way. We talked about Liverpool. You could potentially say they already had that hypothetical happen to them by
Yeah.
Van Dijk being ruled out for most likely this season. I know there's a lot of pictures of him this week, like actually like dribbling the ball and getting back on like the training pitch. But I would say, especially if things aren't going so well, he's probably gonna not make it out. Like they might actually just kind of keep him shut down if need be.
Yeah.
Really nothing to be gained or no real prizes to grab.
Yeah.
So I don't know who taking him off the board. Obviously, I don't know. I just kind of put Mo Salah on this one.
Yeah.
We talk about they're giving up a lot of goals now. They're struggling in a lot of departments, but if they can still have a guy like him continue to produce the way he's been able to produce this season, they still have that shot to win matches every time out.
Yeah. I mean, and he's leading the league in scoring right now. Like, and it's deceptive almost with 17 goals. Like he's actually a couple goals ahead of the competition at this point. So if you were to remove his 17 goals from their current season, think of where they would find themselves on top of the Van Dijk situation. So
they'd be down like around like Arsenal, like around like 10th.
Yeah. Like,
if they're begging for goals and they're conceding a bunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're maybe in a world of hurt.
Yeah, they would be in a world of hurt. Let's flip the tables back to the team we were talking about before Liverpool with Manchester City. They find themselves topping the table, and I think it's a good foil for Liverpool in that Liverpool's situation is defined almost entirely in removing that key player, and that's why they're so bad. City have been the complete opposite. They're like one missing piece that they've had for the last few years has been the center back. They never really had that keystone center back they needed to be able to have the stout defensive setup that they need to be as freewheeling as they are offensively. I think, and Ilkay Gundogan, you can make a shout for him with
that
how
was my
good
pick.
he's been, but I have to give it to Ruben Diaz and his addition to Manchester City's back line has completely transformed this club into one who had defensive struggles that limited their ability to reach for the stars. I think now they have that dude, and it doesn't matter who they pair him with, much like with Van Dijk. You put John Stones next to him, and John Stones looks like a world beater now.
John Stones looks like, hey, that was a good investment in our money.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, my money's on Ruben Diaz, and it's not even a question.
Okay. No, I think, you know what? I put Gundogan, and I think from an offensive side and just the individual season he's having, numbers wise, is incredible, and he gets my pick. But I think you hit on something huge because I feel like we've been talking about this for years. Ever since they lost Vincent Kompany, like that's been a void they've been trying to figure out. And yeah, I think they have that person now in that back line that can kind of really be that anchor for them and give them that stability. So no, I think you're 100% right. I hate my answer now. I like yours.
Well, hey, Ilkay is a good pick too. He's had a hell of a year. Let's move across town to the other Manchester side. They're having a quiet, oddly quiet, good year. Currently find themselves second in the table.
I feel like they did this a few years ago, right? Where they like finished second, but like it wasn't impressive.
Yeah.
At all.
But if you had to nail one Manchester United player as being ultra impressive, and they've had a couple guys who've really performed well this year, but I think it's like unquestionably it has to be Bruno Fernandes, right?
Not only is he the MVP for them, but like he may single-handedly like keep Ed Woodward off the chopping block because that guy made so many bad transfer moves and he finally made one so good you kind of forget about how crappy some of the ones were that he made.
Yeah. I mean, Bruno Fernandes has been a revelation for United, both from a goal scoring perspective, a leadership perspective. He's really just galvanized the way that this team plays, and he is now the embodiment of Manchester United. You would have thought like Paul Pogba was the idea, the personality that the squad's built around. And in far less time, Bruno's come in and has made this team his. and they are now a successful team in large part because of the way that he guides this team forward.
Also, like, and I it is Bruno, but like that Cavani move, I think a lot of us rolled our eyes at that one. Like, oh, okay, here we go. Like, what does this guy still have left in the tank?
Falcao 2.0.
Yeah. No, that worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
The Bruno Fernandes thing, it's almost like he's the new version of Fergie time, into where there have been so many matches this year where like you're like, nah, they're not gonna pull this out. They're not gonna pull it out. And then Bruno Fernandes just does something, and you're like, that's your winner. All right, never mind. They got
Nothing you can do about that. Bruno doing Bruno things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but definitely he's the X factor for that team, and undoubtedly their MVP, if not just for them, but for the whole league too.
Let's go Leicester City.
Yeah, this one was kind of hard, I felt like, because they're a team that are successful for their many pieces, right? Like,
right.
I think
some of many parts, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like, I think if we talked about like a Ruben Diaz, you remove that that piece from the puzzle, and the rest of the puzzle breaks down. I don't know. There are a lot of people that I think you could say that about with Manchester City. Like Jamie Vardy comes into the equation. Kasper Schmeichel comes into the equation.
Sure.
But for me, I feel like it's James Maddison.
Yeah,
like
that's what I picked.
He's their engine. He scores goals. He creates. He's kind of like the brain and the ethos around how they play. And if you could embody the club in one player, I think it's him. And while I think Vardy used to carry that flag for a while, I think James Maddison is the one that's the highest flag out there at the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it looks like we are gonna temporarily get our hypothetical as I believe he went down injured this weekend.
He did.
So I think they might be going a match or two without him. So I guess we'll see what that looks like without him.
Yeah, right. Should we go to West Ham since they're currently sitting in that fourth spot on the table?
Let's go West Ham.
This is another one where I kind of felt the same way. And I think the further you get down the table, the more you get these type of like, well, if you remove this guy, this is what would happen. And if you remove this guy, this is what would happen. Like the easy one is probably Thomas Soucek, and he just keeps finding himself back in the spotlight for like all of these reasons, right? Like, so there's the red card.
He was leading the team in goals.
Yeah, right. For a defensive midfielder. Yeah. Just kind of wild. But like there was that red card controversy a few weeks ago, which shouldn't have been a red card, and he obviously had that overturned. And last week against Spurs and their big win against them, he got his face bloodied up by bonking heads with Davinson Sanchez, and he scores penalties. He's leading the charge for him, and it just like for a quiet West Ham, a side that no one really thinks should be in this position, Thomas Soucek's kind of that same type of MVP leader. Like a 6'4" defensive midfielder is your MVP. I don't know that I would have pulled that one out of the hat at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, no, that's who I picked. I went into it thinking I was going to select like Declan Rice or someone.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the more I was like going into it, I was like, no, I didn't realize, like, again, I did not realize like not only has he been playing like such a vital role, but like also he's like just bagging goals from at like a clip that I didn't even realize.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, you mentioned Declan Rice, Aaron Cresswell, I think, could go into that conversation too. I wanted to pick Mikel Antonio just because of his awesome Valentine's Day post last week, where he was saying that he would say his heart is too big for his wife, but it's actually his dong.
Well, I mean, he said it, his words.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, part of me actually almost wanted to go Lingard. Just because I feel like he's brought like a real like almost a swagger to this side. Like he's brought like right at the time that they're kind of like moving in the right direction. He's kind of come in and given them a little bit of like some confidence and some cockiness, some swagger. I like it. I think he's coming in right at the perfect time.
Yeah. Nothing like his manager raiding his old club to pull out a diamond in the rough and make West Ham relevant once again. Let's move down to another London side who find themselves in fifth in the table, a buoyant Chelsea. You were talking about this earlier. You guys are now your optimism, right? I think is if we had to pick a club that followed the highs and lows of Liverpool's most closely this year, you guys have to be it.
Oh yeah.
It's been very up and down this year, and currently you guys are in a bit of an upswing with the Tuchel movement.
Yeah.
But
at the moment, we are about to hit some turbulence.
Yeah, but because of that, I think
we played Atletico this week, somehow pulled out a win. We play United this weekend, then Liverpool, then Everton, and then we play the second leg of that Champions League match.
Sheesh.
So we'll see where that optimism is in like a week or so.
Right. So, but with it being kind of chaotic, doesn't that make picking an MVP for this year somewhat difficult?
No.
No.
It's so clear and easy for me.
I think I know the answer.
It's not even close. It's Mason Mount.
Ah, man. See, I figured Mount would be the pick, and especially because he seems to be like the whipping boy. Like when a new manager comes in, they're like, that's got to be the guy that we're yanking out of here. He was definitely Frank's guy. It'll be good for establishing the new pecking order. And like Tuchel did that, and then like the next game, he was right back where he needed to be.
Yep.
And I think the only other person you could maybe throw into contention would be Mendy and his arrival to kind of stabilize things.
For him to come in and lock that down. Like, his numbers are incredible for just stepping right in, early into a Premier League season, and the dude hasn't really missed a beat.
Yeah.
And his numbers are great. The amount of clean sheets he's had in his first season, that's not even over yet, and that he missed the first, month of, are incredible. I think he's right there. I think he's definitely second on that list. But Mason Mount, he scores goals when we need goals. He's consistently just that main cog in that midfield that's just getting things going. And he just, everyone makes the whole thing about him and Lampard and all that stuff. And there's a lot to that. But like, he still is that piece that Lampard can no longer be. Like, he is that true Chelsea thread line in the squad. Like, this guy has been with the club since he was just a dumb, like, 9-year-old kid. Like, he's proper Chelsea, as they would say, and he lives that out on the pitch, and he's just an extremely important player and probably our most consistent player. I know, again, you mentioned it, like, he gets a lot of crap.
Mm-hmm.
From supporters, from just British soccer fans that obviously keep an eye on him because he's like this young up and coming England national team player. And it's all unfounded garbage, and all those people are idiots. Every one of them a giant rube.
Yep, no one has any complaints for Mason Mount.
They shouldn't.
No, not at all. Let's move on. We've already done Liverpool. Let's skip down to their in-town partners in crime, Everton. Very up and down season a bit for them too, but on the whole, I would say they're having a better year than years past. I found them to be a tricky team to kind of pin down because they have had some kind of heroes that have kind of buoyed separate portions of their season along the way. But I felt like Dominic Calvert-Lewin is probably the most consistent one of those, right? And given that he's one of theirs, I think that makes it a little bit more special to him.
Right. No, just like Mason Mount. Like it means a little bit more. There's something special about it. He has scored the most goals for the team, but not only that, if you kind of go through, like, he's also scored like a lot of important goals. Like, he scores match-winning, match-saving goals.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. He's definitely been an X factor and shown up when they've needed him to do so. I feel like we've only got a couple other teams that we probably wanted to hit, and they're more like the big sides that are failing. But
the North London.
We need to include Aston Villa in this equation because they've stuck around, and this one's so bleedingly obvious, but it has to be the captain, Jack Grealish.
Yep.
Mr. Aston Villa.
Did you see the story about him and like how people found out about his injury?
Oh.
And that he wasn't going to play, or whatever it was, that he wasn't going to play?
Through fantasy football, right?
Yeah, all of his teammates, people noticed that all of his teammates were removing him from their fantasy rosters. So that's how it got leaked, that he was not going to be playing in the weekend's match.
I mean, that's incredible stuff. Yeah, even the team physio removed him from his fantasy team, which really, like, that's going to bring about a whole new protocol for how teams can have their players participating in these things. Like, you're going to have to be in a private league. Like, people aren't going to be able to know who you are anymore.
Just the club. Yeah.
Yeah. So, interesting stuff there. Let's get into those last two London sides that just continue to find themselves, in the doldrums. Spurs, let's go with my side. This is one where I think there are probably two clear winners in this particular scenario. Son is the easy one, I think, because he's having an incredible year, both from assists and goal standpoint. And he's the engine of the team, right? And their downturn has really coincided with his own. As he's really cooled off from his hot start to the season, the team has cooled off too. But I think that the glue player for Spurs this year has been Pierre-Emile Højbjerg.
Yes. That's who I picked.
Yeah, when he's been playing well, they are a very difficult team to beat. And when he's not playing well, neither are this team. So I think both of them have seen their form tail off, and Spurs have tailed off a bit at the same time.
Yep. I guess the final club we'll do is Arsenal. A little difficult.
Yeah.
Some would say their MVP is Boris Johnson for keeping these lockdowns in place so that fans don't have to witness this in person, this performance this season.
I mean, for some, that would be a positive.
I went with Saka.
I did too, and I think that's kind of like a testament to where that club kind of finds themselves at the moment. Their MVP is a 19-year-old with 6 goals and 7 assists, and not that that's a bad return. It's very good for where he is in his developmental stage, and I think he has a very bright future. But for a club that's like your MVP is like putting up those numbers, I don't know. For a club of Arsenal's stature and objectives, I just don't. That's not good enough. And I'm not saying that Spurs, are in a better boat, because they're not at the moment. But it is one of those things where you look and you go, well, if that's what your MVP is, that's kind of part of the problem that you're currently experiencing.
Sure. I put him as the MVP, not just because of how well he's played this season, but like the fact that he is this young 19-year-old kid that is coming in and being the difference maker, and in a season that lacks optimism for Arsenal, like he is that bright light of optimism within that club of like, if this young guy, like, if this is our future, like, man, that's like one positive thing we can kind of like, hitch our wagon to.
The Luke Skywalker of Arsenal Football Club at the moment. Certainly the last bright hope left in the pipeline of a dark, dark galaxy out there. And
Hopefully he keeps his arms intact.
well, and luckily you don't need much of those in this sport. So if he gets one chopped off, he should be okay.
It would be Adebayor that would be the Darth Vader in this, right?
Oh, he definitely has turned to the dark side and will show up and bite it off if nothing else.
I had kind of our whip around. I don't know if there's like any like big matches you wanted to mention. Your team's playing like garbage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to talk about any of those.
I don't. It's been a very difficult run. I think I tweeted this at you, or maybe it was a DM. I can't remember, but it was something like it. Their form has made it very difficult to actually get into wanting to talk about soccer and participate. I've been like lucky in that I've been swamped with actual work the last like month. So it's made life very easy to be distracted, but man, it's sucked a lot of the fun out of my soccer viewing experiences. And I get that I'm a bit riding the negative wave here a bit, but it's been a not fun year as a Spurs fan outside of like a couple weeks at the beginning.
Yeah, my coworker today, who's a Spurs fan, he refused to turn the Europa game on. He didn't want. He just wanted to ignore it. He's like, "This, I don't care."
I haven't paid for like the last 3 games that I've had to like pay to watch because I'm just like I'm not gonna pay money to get upset today. Like I'm not doing that. Like
he was like, "This club brings me no joy. I don't care. I'm just gonna go about my day."
And it's honestly, we're at the point where I like the most joyous thing I can think about of Spurs is the prospects of Nagelsmann being brought in as Mourinho's replacement. Like that's where I'm at right now, and even that seems not likely.
Well, you got to dream.
Yeah, right.
Dream big.
Anything to get you out of the slump.
All right, let's go stateside. A few little domestic things going on. I had 3 talking points. I feel like one of them might be one of your winners or wankers. So I'm gonna tread lightly. You can just kind of. We can just kind of hey, this is my wanker or whatever.
Yeah, we'll probably have to do that. Is my guess.
Item 1, and we'll just see if this one makes your list or not. Charlotte FC, their season ticket packages were unveiled, and they have decided to be the initial first MLS club to institute PSLs, which is seat licenses. Something very common in the NFL, common in American sports in general, but something not common and in fact incredibly frowned upon in the sport of soccer.
Yeah.
Also, the tickets in general are just nonsensical pricing.
Yeah.
For like a cavernous NFL stadium that they're gonna play in, like, good lord.
So this is definitely my wanker this week.
Okay, I figured as much.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, we're probably gonna do your wanker right now.
Yeah, and that's fine. We'll just rip that Band-Aid directly off. Where to even start with Charlotte's pricing strategy? First year MLS club. They've announced like 3 players like ever.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure it's more than that at this point, but they've got these insane numbers that they're throwing around, and part of that is because they have these seat licenses, right? Like that's part of the cost that's associated with some of these prices being so high.
Honestly, like the seat license thing, like when you boil it down, like it's probably the least egregious thing of the pricing.
Well,
it is a one-time fee.
Yeah, it is a one-time fee, and it is something unlike in a traditional MLS situation. If you're done with that seat, you can sell it. Like you can literally sell that and recoup some of that money back.
Right.
You're hoping that it's going to be for more than what you paid for it. That's the idea. But like if you're a Bengals fan, you know very well that no one has ever sold their seat license for more money than what they originally paid for it. So it's one of those things where you're kind of like hoping that it turns into some sort of investment type of scenario. But what it really is the club is deciding to openly say, we're going to charge you twice for your tickets. Like that's what it is.
Yep.
And I don't know, like watching some of the Charlotte fans try to defend this has been funny in some respects. Like people being like, "Hey, well, we don't have any summer competition here. People don't know what those prices are like. Hey, they're used to the NFL. They're like this is what it's like here. Hey, like it's a new product and there's going to be world-class players. Blah, blah, blah. Like it's kind of like no, like this team is literally deciding out the gates to say our priority is making money. And that's what we're here to do.
Yep. Now, to be slightly fair, they made some comments in response to this. And one of the comments was this whole seat license thing. We're just the first team to do it. This is a thing that's going to be the norm in MLS. And they're probably not wrong.
No. That's the sad part. And I think a lot of fans are going to have a hard time digesting that information as they sit here and they rail on it, when in a couple of years they're going to have to eat that same type of situation. Yep. It's sad because you look at like some of these seat licenses for Charlotte, some of them cost more than what a season ticket would cost for an FC Cincinnati match, like period. Yeah. Like period, just the license.
So I did the math. Their cheapest season ticket, so you're up in the 200 section on one of the ends. One of those tickets, one season ticket, where you're paying obviously the season ticket price for the season plus the seat license to get it, is more than my company just paid for 3 FC Cincinnati season tickets.
That's an insane number, and frankly, it's not sustainable. Like it's a non-sustainable thing to do.
This is year one. You've proven nothing. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what kind of internal data you have. I don't know what kind of a pulse you have in that city as far as people that are interested, people that have bought in already to the MLS club in their city. It's all different. You can't look at one thing and say it's going to correlate to another, but they've had a USL team in that city for several years, and that team can barely scratch together 1,500 fans for a game.
Yeah. Yeah, no knock on the Independence fans who do make it out there.
Good on them. And there's no shame in that. But you can't tell me that you've already harnessed the market and can demand these prices.
Well, I mean, we saw them have a lot of deposits placed, right?
Sure. But how much was that deposit? Like $50?
Yeah, right. And deposits are a funny thing to track because, a deposit may actually turn into 8 tickets. It may turn into 1 ticket. It may turn into 0 tickets.
Right.
And, that's, I think they saw that big response and they go to themselves, hey, we're Atlanta United 2.0. We're in the same region. We can do the same thing. We've got an NFL stadium. We're filling up just like them. And I'm not getting the impression that Charlotte are going to be spending Atlanta United money. But maybe they intend to by charging these prices. But here's the thing. Atlanta have a larger stadium. They know that they're getting 45,000 plus for most of those games. They can afford, like they know they can afford to do that. And they didn't charge prices like this out the gates. Like no. They did not.
They're also in a much bigger market, so stuff like local TV deals, merchandising, all that stuff, like it's always going to be on a bigger scale.
Sure, for sure, right? But to the credit, like Charlotte doesn't have the same competition base that, and Atlanta does, right? Like there's no Major League Baseball team. They have an NBA and an NFL team, but that's it. Like there's no NHL. They have
Yeah,
college sports
you got
teams.
to go up the road for NHL.
Yeah, but I mean, they have college sports teams that are close, but none that are like the major denominator in that region as well. So it's a unique situation, and I kind of feel like they're hoping that they can get the best out of it, and it seems like a weak strategy, and one that seems so predicated on raping the people that are gonna be your own customer base moving forward. It's a bad way to start the relationship.
What it so clearly and easily appears to be is NFL ownership trying to
Oh,
run an MLS team like an NFL team.
yeah, and you got to wonder if some of these other NFL owners are going, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, the
Oh,
Sounders aren't doing this.
Uncle
Uh,
Arthur is sitting back with a cigar in his mouth, laughing at these fools.
yeah, the Hunts aren't doing this,
No,
and you know what I mean? Like, I'm really struggling to see where they think this is a good idea, and maybe we'll all be eating crow in however amount of time, but
if
it doesn't
if
seem good.
if FC Cincinnati in year 1 or 2 or 3 of MLS, with all the momentum, all the in-market clout that they had built up, if they can't demand prices like that, why would you think you could?
Because they're the real Queen City.
Oh, okay. I rest my case. No
We'll
further
we'll, we'll
questions.
charge Queen's ransom, and it's
Apparently.
fair. Yeah.
Other little news and notes. So like one little thing quickly. Terry Henry's trying to get a different gig. Not surprising that he's looking for the exit.
Yeah.
He thought he was getting the Bournemouth gig. They've decided to punt till summer on that move.
He's like, ah, damn it, I'm back in Montreal.
According to reporters that cover the team, like he has not been seen around the organization during any of this build up to preseason. So they don't even know if he's like even in town. Like
He's
if he
hiding.
plans to be in town.
He's very, very sneaky. He gets around. He's got tunnels built.
Was he El Chapo?
Maybe we can't rule it out.
No, we certainly cannot rule it out.
They got those high cliffs there in Montreal. There's plenty of things to dig into.
Do we figure out where the Canadian teams are even playing this season?
I don't think we have. Maybe that's why he's not been around, because they're not going to be playing there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
They'll be sharing like Al Lang Stadium with the Rowdies or something. What's the plan there, guys?
Potentially, maybe they're going back to Rochester, New York, or something.
Sounds fun.
Yeah.
The other one is we finally got the unveiling of Peter Wilt's long anticipated Chicago Nisa side that's been rumored and been kind of wheels in motion and getting stuff off the ground there for, gosh, feels like almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
That's been kind of a thing in the works.
Yeah. They settled on the name after an extensive fan vote of Chicago House, which is a very unique name from an American soccer perspective.
Yeah.
It's an ode to the house music scene that existed in Chicago back when the house scene was big. So what was that, like the 80s and 90s, early 2000s a little bit. And really kind of a cool, like they really handed the keys to the car as far as the brand goes when it comes to the supporters. And you really have to give them credit. Like that's a very dangerous leap that they kind of took there.
Bold strategy.
Yeah, and I'm sure as you typically would do in any of these type of scenarios, they had some favorites in the mix, and they probably positioned them against ones they knew they would probably beat. But at the same time, like you have to give them credit because immediately anyone who's invested themselves in this process now feels a connection and an ownership to the name that they ultimately chose. So Yeah, I thought it was a really cool move, and it's always awesome seeing Peter get his hands into stuff that it's very infrequent that he does anything that goes poorly in American soccer.
Or, just basically, has Peter Wilt attached him to himself really to anything where the branding just fell flat?
Yeah, I'm struggling to think of anything.
I mean, I don't know how involved he was with whatever that thing was, or at some point is supposed to be in San Diego, but outside of that, like I don't see any misses.
No, Johnny Appleseed's record remains just about undefeated, so it's always fun seeing him do that.
Winners and wankers?
I think we are there. Real quick, the other thing I wanted to know, just from a domestic perspective, we might get fans in Ohio soccer stadiums at the start of the season. 30% capacity cleared by Governor DeWine.
Yep.
Is now in the cards potentially for the start of the season. So for a state that's literally building two brand spanking new soccer stadiums, I'm like pretty jazzed about that aspect.
Absolutely, yeah.
As members of the media, you and I have ways of getting into stadiums that most people don't. But at the same time, like it's a lot more. Like I went to an empty Nippert Stadium all last year.
How weird was that?
Like that sucked. And even though the team wasn't good, like you'd rather still have some energy in the stadium to drive it. And I'm for one am excited, even if it's not necessarily medically the best idea to have people sitting close together in those circumstances.
I think the plan would be for them to not sit close together.
Yeah, and let's hope that's the case. But no, I think it's a great news that we will hopefully get some warm bodies in some cold stadium seats here in the non too distant future.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds hopeful. Which
Yeah.
is good. It's what we would need. It's springtime. Springtime is always a time for new and hopefulness and optimism, right? So we got to embrace
rejuvenation, right?
My winner or my wanker, I guess. I got to get my wanker.
Yeah, that's right.
You already gave yours.
I did.
My wanker, CBS Sports. They've decided for knockout rounds, they're just going to televise on like their actual cable channel, just one match a week. So like they did the Chelsea match yesterday, but didn't do the City or I forget what the other one was. Didn't do either of those matches today. And the same thing last week. They played, I think it was the Barcelona match, but then they didn't play a match on that Wednesday.
I'm glad you did this because I hard considered this one as well. Last year I was willing to give CBS a pass. Like they stepped up and picked up, the Turner catastrophe that they no longer wanted to deal with that contract. Right. And I get that they were in a pinch and, they had to throw stuff onto this new streaming platform that they had.
That they kind of wasn't ready for prime time. It was one that they weren't really ready to start streaming like live programming on.
Yeah, well, they did. Yeah. And we all suffered because of it. This year, though, they made an active choice to put those things there.
Yep.
And man, I'm growing frustrated with how often this has become the norm. We're not even getting, like you mentioned, we only got one Champions League game a week this time around. We're not even getting Europa League games. Like there are no broadcast Europa League games unless you pony up. And if this was going to be their strategy from the start, I wish they would have advertised that as such, right? And it pushes me ever closer and closer to actually like fully cord cutting, even though I'm a YouTube TV guy. And, NBC is not going to have any Premier League games really on live broadcast television next season. CBS seemed like they're stuffing most of their Champions League content there.
I'm just because this is all part of CBS's new push for their Paramount Plus thing that they launch next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Which and tacking all that onto this, after I wrote this out, it came out this evening. CBS Sports has won the rights to men's and women's CONCACAF World Cup qualifying.
Only for matches outside of Mexico and the U.S.
Right. So it's the B in sport matches.
Yeah. Which is exciting, except for you're going to have to pay-per-view all of them.
Yep. Probably. Going to be Paramount Plus.
And I understand that this is a result of like the cable companies are trying to squeeze the content providers, and so the content providers are trying to get their revenue back.
Right.
In some way, but this is just the consumer is always the one that gets pinched here. And man, it's just it wasn't that long ago that we had like unfettered access to soccer, and now it's all been put behind gates, and it's sad.
Yeah. No, it sucks. So you gave your winner already, right? That was your winner?
No, I did my winner, or I did my wanker. I've not actually done my winner. That was just me tacking in some.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yay, we get to go to stadium.
Your winner. I was like, wait, I don't think he did phrase that as a winner. He didn't.
No, I didn't
overlap on any of that.
You could have. Your winner. Yeah, my winner. I'm going to the Houston Dynamo and Houston Dash players for organizing Winter Storm Relief Fund for the chaos that hit Texas over the winter storms last week. With all the proceeds being split amongst Mutual Aid Houston, Kids Meals Houston, and the Houston Food Bank. What's crazy is like I know a lot of these players were actually in the same situations.
Right.
That a lot of
they were living somewhere else.
Yeah.
And like not having to deal with the same issues. Like.
Yeah. And most of these guys aren't making Ted Cruz money where they can hop a plane to Cancun.
No, Cancun.
Yeah. Some of them probably do and probably did, but they're also not elected officials. But a lot of the guys who are probably behind this are making like, middle America, like median income wages. Like these aren't people that are, millionaires who are organizing this. These are like common folk. They just happen to play a professional sport for their occupation. So you have to give it up to people who are literally commoners who are going above and beyond their call of duty to help fellow people. And it's always awesome when it's actually soccer players who are doing that.
Awesome. Now my winner is going to sound real superficial after cool. That one. My winner goes to Adidas. So far, I'm like really digging the MLS kits that are coming out right now. Like there's some, like there has not been a bunch of stinkers so far. I'm sure they're coming. Hey, FC Cincinnati's drops tomorrow, so my opinion may have changed by the time this gets published. But like Portland's, I love the one they put out. I love that one. Even like those like weird white ones that Salt Lake and DC United did, like I thought those were like at least like fairly well done. That sweet alt that Philly's doing, that
amazing. It's amazing.
Like there's
Nashville leaked out. Theirs looks pretty decent.
Yeah.
LA Galaxy probably their homage kit to their old colors is just
that came out today.
Chef kiss material. Adidas definitely, they heard the complaints for the last 5 years. And they've given us some variation, and I think that's what people are looking for. Is just make me feel like I didn't get the exact same cookie cutter as someone else, and it will make the value a little bit more. And the fact that they're not getting universally panned like they did for the last few rounds of kits tells you that they're at least making some headway in that area. So no, that's a totally superficial. It might be, but hey, this is a superficial podcast. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves.
I that's all I got. You got anything else?
Nah, I don't think so. I think it's time for me to go get my flip-flops out and go enjoy these warmer temperatures, right?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I got my beach towel ready.
All right. As always, folks, thanks for listening in. If you want to get a hold of us, Jeremy's at Jeremy Lance on Twitter. I'm at Wrong Side of Pond. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Later.